a Punjabi influencer, YouTube influencer, who lives here in Canada, who's been outspoken about Palestinian violence here in Canada, and I take it back home. Her YouTube was done in Punjabi, but she was threatened before. She had her house set on fire by the Khalistanis. And then the other day, she turns up murdered, stabbed over 15 times. They're still looking to see exactly who did the murder. Is this political violence? Was she assassinated for her view and for speaking? That's not the Canada that I know. I was contacted to go on radio and talk to my friend Mark Petrone on his radio show about this murder and about the out-of-hand political violence that's going on in Canada today. Listen what I say here.
We're back with more on News Talk Saga 960 on this March the 5th edition of the show. Ross McLean joining us. He is a bodyguard to the billionaires, a security expert, former law enforcement. Welcome to the show, Ross.
Well, good to be with you to talk about what I think is a very explosive and important story, the death of this young woman, Mark.
This is brutal. And you're an online guy. I mean, you've got a YouTube channel, and you do a lot of work online. And so this hits home for online influencers, people who express their opinion. And sometimes those opinions can aggravate some and irritate others and prompt a backlash. I'm not saying that's what happened in this case. We don't know. But this 45-year-old lady, Nancy Grewal, was murdered in her home, stabbed 18 times. Here's a post by Table Salt. She was anti-rape gang, anti-human trafficking, anti-drug trafficking, and they killed her. This is going to have international consequences. What do we know about this case, Ross?
Well, we know that this has been going on for quite a while, and it's been getting downplayed from coast to coast to coast by the government and by the police. And I'm going to come right off the top and say this, Mark. This is an act of terrorism. This wasn't the murder of one woman. This is a murder for a political agenda. She was doing her YouTubing. She had, I believe, some 9,000 followers. Who knows what percentage were in India, what percentage here were in Canada. But she talked in her native language and wrote mostly in her native language about the issues of the Khalistani terrorists and the way that they operate in Canada. And I take it back home. I obviously don't know all of her content for doing it. So she was speaking out against this group. And she had her house set on fire back in November, earlier of the year. Someone went up, poured gas all over the front of it, and set it on fire. So she had threats coming against her. There's no doubt about it. In this same area, though, from London to here, you come back to Toronto, I watched with sort of really, I'm not sure if the right word is surprise, disgust, or disgrace, but the OPP have been reduced to putting out on their social media, hey, if anybody's threatened to kill you and your family or shoot your house up or is trying to extort you, make sure you drop us a call. You can do it online, and here's a QR code where you can take your camera and you can upload any video if someone's threatened to take your life if you don't pay them a lot of money. I mean, this is how common it's becoming. We had out in Surrey, BC, the mayor there, they were getting two or three extortion attempts a day. A day. People going around extorting. Now, this is not being treated seriously enough. We're seeing foreign influence come into this country and affect this country, and it is all being played like tish-tosh by this Liberal government with Mark Carney. On top of that, we just had Golda Garmani, the former MPP, Iranian, have a $250,000, I'm not sure what the nomination was, price tag put on her head by the IRGC or IRGC affiliated groups. You had another person posting on social media saying that I know where your family is. I know what your father does. And at the same time, we've got Carney and Jolie and Anand, when they're asked specifically about the Indian aspects of the terror here, Oh, no, there's not a problem. Oh, yeah, there is. No, there isn't. No, there's no real problem. We're addressing it. We have resources. Well, this woman is lying murdered in her home for speaking, for expressing herself in a lawful fashion, Mark. And I'm not hearing any more than I heard when the synagogue was shot up the other day, or when that Persian boxing and martial arts place was shot up the other day. I'm hearing no talk of terrorism from the police. I'm hearing no talk of we got the national security team, terrorist security team looking at this. So I don't know how they're going to investigate this without the proper resources to deal particularly with Palestini type crimes, because it's done in another language with a different culture. And do they have the resources in London, Ontario to deal with that? Yeah. I don't know. But that's my rip on it. That's my rip on it for right now.
Well, thank you, Ross. Turns out the Prime Minister was asked if he's confident that India is no longer involved in extortion or threats. To your point earlier, in Canada, Prime Minister Carney and his government remains vigilant on foreign interference. Let's listen to this clip.
Prime Minister, are you confident that the Indian government is no longer involved in extortions, threats, and violence in Canada?
Well, the first thing to say is that our approach to foreign interference, to transnational repression, to extortion, the crime of extortion, in all cases is one of vigilance and engagement. Vigilance in terms of tightening the legal framework in Canada. I won't go into all the details. I think you're familiar with the 6 laws that are still before Parliament and the Senate, which will make a major difference to the powers of sentencing, the bail regime, and tightening our asylum system, tightening our borders, all of which will help address these issues. First point. The second element of vigilance, of course, is adequate resources for law enforcement, 1,000 more RCMP, 1,000 more border service agents, coordination at multiple levels of government, reinforcing resources for our security, our various security agencies as well. The third element of vigilance is deploying actively our intelligence services and the highest levels of government being informed on a regular basis in terms of developments. We're in the process structurally of appointing the Foreign Interference Commissioner.
Yeah, it's about bloody time. They've been dragging their feet on that one for years. Anyway, do you feel any better about things based on what you just heard there, Ross?
Well, I'm pretty sick and tired of him wailing on about the 1,000 RCMP and the 1,000 border service guards, which have not been hired yet, by the way, Mark. I don't think any of them have been hired and put in place. And apparently they're going to solve terrorism, fentanyl, money laundering, terrorism, foreign. These 1,000 are going to be very, very busy officers because they're going to be solving all the problems. Every time there's a major one, he mentions that. But then he also has what's the right word for it? The chutzpah? To say, we're going to put more intelligence on it. This government denies the intelligence when it's put in front of it. They denied the intelligence when CSIS put it in front of them, saying there was no national security threat with the convoy. They denied it when CSIS said that there was a problem with Chinese foreign interference corrupting at least 11 members of his government. And then they denied it when they're saying that there's no real issue with Indian interference, when CSIS was just on the record recently doing a talk saying it's still a problem. So I quite frankly can't believe anything that comes out of his mouth, because it's not backed up by the facts or the truth. And Mark, this is going on more and more and more every day. We've got the war going on now over in Iran. We've got, like I said, we've got death threats against prominent people here in Ontario and Canada. And now we have a woman murdered in London. And you better believe this is making the rounds throughout India, because if we may be separated by great miles, but the Indian diaspora that's here and the Indian diaspora at home, boy, are they ever connected and love and care for each other. And they're going to wonder what exactly is going on in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what advice would you have as a bodyguard to anybody who does work online? So in other words, they're an influencer, they have thousands of followers, people who watch them. They are popular, but they hit topics that are potentially explosive, politically explosive, like this woman obviously had opinions which were controversial amongst people in India. And she was Punjabi, and she was doing what we think we should be allowed to do in Canada, which is express our opinion without fear of retribution. And so once this sort of thing happens, how do you handle this from a security vantage point? I mean, do you have to grow eyes on the back of your head now if you're an online influencer, or what?
No, what you expect is the state to take care of this problem. For one individual to look after it, I mean, sure, I could give you the things about make sure you don't give your identity online at home and all these sort of things about keeping things and being aware when you're walking. But when you've got an organized group, criminal group or a terror group coming after you, that is beyond the means of an individual person. It even starts to get beyond the means of fairly wealthy people to do it. We once, back in the day, we did protection for a guy who was going to be testifying against the mob. And to protect him correctly, it was 7 people on a shift at a time, three shifts for 24 hours. And that went on for weeks. That's a lot of money, Mark. That's a lot of money. So the state needs to come in here and start getting laws in places, start charging people, start treating it as terrorism, because it is. It's silencing people's voices when they want to speak. And you're defenseless to it as an individual when an organized group comes at you. I mean, I have heard rumors and people telling me that there are several other prominent people in the Indian community here who have paid large amounts of money to not be terrorized. Large amounts of money. We're talking in excess of $250,000 easily, so that their families won't be attacked. Because you can't, how do you look after your family 24/7, 3 kids going to school, going here, going there, your work, your home, your wife? You can't do it. So we're going to have to get the government to take this seriously. I don't know where our public safety minister is, Gary. You know, Gary, who had to recuse himself from terrorism acts because he was involved with panel terrorists before and writing letters to get them admitted into Canada or some such thing, something like that. He said he's going to recuse himself from terrorism. So I'm not sure if our public safety minister isn't putting his hands on this or who's looking after it. I don't know. But we've got a woman murdered. We have a former MPP with money on her head, death threats on her head, with threats against her parents. We have shoot-ups going all over southern Ontario. We've got synagogues being shot at, Iranian businesses being shot at, Jewish establishments having swastikas put on them, and other homes and businesses shot up out on the West Coast. I mean, if that's not a bit of a crime problem, Mark, I don't know what is.
We got a terrorist problem. I mean, that's what's going on. Some of this stuff is politically motivated. A lot of it is. And this is what we didn't want. This is what Canadians didn't want when Justin Trudeau, the Liberal government, brought over 5 million people. Way too many. You know, you bring them over at a rate that we can absorb. And when you bring over too many at one time, they bring over whatever problems they've got back home and they bring them here. Whatever political issues, or the terrorism that goes on. You know, we don't mind that you're here. We mind that you bring your problems here. You know, leave your crap, leave your violence, leave your hatred back from where you left it. You know, you're coming to a new country. We don't need that crap here. But blackface, being blackface, brought in all these people. Many of them were not vetted properly. We still have millions of people here who are not Canadian citizens. And it's a problem for the rest of us because, you know, there's always collateral damage. Nobody wants to see their fellow citizens murdered like this lady was, stabbed 18 times in her home. Why? Because she was a content creator who expressed some outspoken views that maybe other people didn't like. I'm telling you, it's going to get worse because we have a government in Ottawa that is politically motivated to bring as many people from the outside as is humanly possible in order to disempower the people who are here. In other words, they want to disempower you, the likes of you and me. You know, you bring people over here, you give them some free stuff, and say, vote for me, I let you in. That's their big strategy. That's the strategy of these people. Once they form their voting base, once they're allowed to vote, which you know that the Liberals can't wait to give these people citizenship, and it's led to an explosion in crime, of which you just spoke about. Our country is not even recognizable anymore, and it's the fault of these scumbags in Ottawa. It really is. Last word to you, my friend.
Yeah, the worst part about this, Mark, is it's their own people picking on their own people, right? So when you get a large ethnic group that comes in and it starts to get all tribal, they're not used to being in here, and their own people take advantage of them, right? It's Indian Khalistanis and other gangs that are affiliated or with that do that are doing human trafficking and turning girls into hookers, turning guys into drug dealers and robbers and gangsters and everything else like that. That's what happens, is they pick on their own, and they want to keep the terror within their community as much as they can. But this one here, with what's going on with this woman who was murdered, and with Golda Gamari, and the shootings now becoming commonplace, as you said, but, if they don't want to be hitting the white guy's house in behind the family that they're picking on, they really don't. They want to keep these groups, these ethnic groups, want to keep their crime ethnic so they can continue to prey on their own people. And I say we as Canadians all got to stand together and say, not on our watch, not on our watch. But I don't hear that right now, Mark.
Ross McLean, hard-hitting stuff. How do people access your terrific work online?
I'd appreciate it if they come and follow me over at McLean Chronicles on YouTube, Mark. That would be great.
McLean Chronicles on YouTube. Fantastic. Thank you, Ross.